Okay, today we're going to take negotiation lessons from the fourth season of Stranger Things and a really great negotiation scene. Let's watch.
But there is a protocol to visiting a patient like Victor. You have to put in a request. And then you have to undergo a screening process, at which point the board will make a decision.
Okay, let's just stop there. Do you recognize what tactic that is? Because we all see it all the time, and it's called company policy. Those first 15 seconds feel to me like many, many calls I make to cable companies, I make to phone company, I make to the doctor, right? I feel empathic. I hear you, sir, but company policy.
I can see you're disappointed. But I'm more than happy to give you a tour of our facility. Perhaps you can even speak to some patients in our low security wing.
And we would love that. It's just that our thesis is due next month.
And you're out of time. Whose fault is that?
Ours.
Okay, Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde, you go from false empathy to cruelty because someone's going to negotiate. That's kind of interesting. You know, I talk a lot about the importance of empathy. What I haven't really talked a lot about is empathy for good and empathy for evil, empathy as a tactic, right? And this hospital administrator here who's preventing Nancy and Robin from meeting high security Victor, he's using empathy for evil. But again, let's see what tactics may or may not work. This first one, right, is clearly an attempt at sympathy, and so far, not working.
Absolutely, and I do apologize.
Don't apologize, Ruth. Screw that. The fact of the matter is, we did put in a request months ago and were denied. And then we reapplied and were denied again. And coming here was our last-ditch effort to save our thesis, and I can't breathe in this thing.
Well, Rose, maybe you'd like to go outside and get some air.
Maybe I should, Ruth, because I'm starting to think this whole thing is a colossal mistake. I'm breaking out in a rash. My boobs hurt, and I'll tell you the truth, Anthony. May I call you Anthony? These aren't actually my clothes. I borrowed them because I wanted you to take us seriously. Because nobody takes girls seriously in this field. They just don't. We don't look the part or whatever, but can I tell you a story? 1978, I was at summer camp. And my counselor, Drew, told me and everyone in Cabin C the true story of the Victor Creel massacre. And little Petey McHugh, you know Petey, right, Ruth?
Of course.
Yeah. Little Petey McHugh started sobbing right there on the spot, full on hyperventilating, and all the other campers, they couldn't sleep for weeks. And I couldn't sleep either, but not because I was scared, because I was obsessed with the question, what would drive a human being to commit such unimaginable acts? Other kids, they wanted to be astronauts, basketball players, rock stars, but I wanted to be you. I wanted to be you, so forgive me if I'll now try anything in my power, including wearing this ridiculous outfit, if I might get the chance to speak to the man that ignited my passion and learn a little bit more about how his twisted, but let's face it, totally fascinating mind works. So yes, we don't have the official paperwork. But don't tell me that crybaby Petey McHugh wouldn't have gotten an audience with Victor in a matter of moments if he'd asked politely, because you and I both know that he would.
I don't even want to see the answer before I say this. Wow. That is leaning into negotiation power. Why? Because it's speaking your voice, it's speaking your truth, it's speaking your passion, and all those things influence people much more than just being obsequious, much more than just being sweet. And so it's really powerful. But there's another thing that Robin does here that I think is really critical. She could see this doctor, right, who's kind of self-absorbed, who loves his power. And she says, I want to be you. I've always wanted to be you. You who can study people like Victor. Whatever the answer is, obviously, this is TV, this is drama, but the notion that really great negotiators lean into their passion, they lean into their narrative, right, and they tell it compellingly, doesn't always work, but always increases the potential of really landing. And so I love this move, right? If I'm on the other side of this, I don't care about the company policy. I want to help this woman see Victor.
So, 10 minutes with Victor. That's all I ask.
I'm back in 30.
Yes. Okay, they did it. So obviously, if you watch this show, you know that the entire scene was a ruse. I mean, I keep on saying Robin and Nancy, but they're saying Ruth and Rose. So the setup was a ruse, but I want to analyze it more from the perspective of what we see. And there's a lot embedded in here. I've talked a little bit about the power of leaning into your narrative, because it seems to me, right, that what Nancy's strategy has been is, let's be something we're not. Let's dress up in a particularly prim or proper way. Let's be very indulgent. And sometimes that can work. But more often than not, when we're negotiating, we want to be authentic. We want to tell our narrative, and we want to frame it in a way that connects with their story. And that's what Robin does so well in this scene. Let me make a few other observations. I was struck in the beginning when Robin brings up, I think, a really critical point, right, which is the gender piece. We tried to get all dressed up. We're trying to do this because you otherwise wouldn't take us seriously. So often women need to do double work just to get taken seriously. And then sometimes they suffer what's called a gender backlash here. So she brings it up later in the negotiation when she says, you know, if we were men, we wouldn't have had to go through all this effort. We'd be seeing Victor already. The move that she makes here, right, is she's in some sense is raising this as an issue, but doing it as part of the broader narrative, and it seems to land pretty well. One last piece I think is interesting. And if I were interviewing Robin, is maybe the one thing I'd say maybe you want to think about differently. She asked for 10 minutes. And from a negotiation perspective, right, we call that an anchor. On the other side, it'd be really easy to say, well, how about 5 minutes? How about 2 minutes, right? And then we've set the bounded range between 10 and something lower. Now, what we see here, right, is a really nice end. He says, how about 30? But from a negotiation perspective, I think I'd say we like to see him for as long as we need to. Or, you know, we'll let you know when we're done. Let him be the one to say you only get 10 minutes or 30 minutes. Overall, though, I think there's a lot of really great lessons we can take here. First, in negotiation, whenever you can, see your own narrative and story as a source of your negotiation power. People respond to your passions. Second, connect that to something that you see matters to the other side. In this case, this, I assume, doctor or director of the hospital clearly is a guy who likes his power and has a pretty big ego. Third, when throwing out a first offer, instead of anchoring yourself on the low side, ask for something that is reasonable but maximally to your advantage. Lots of great lessons from current TV, and you'll get some really good negotiation lessons if you watch this next one from Euphoria. Oh, and don't forget to subscribe to this channel, hit the like button, and ring the bell. Okay, you want to keep watching? Click, click, click.